Hi folks, Taco again. Same day as episode 13. I'm going to be repotting my Crassula Ogre's ears. I'm not sure if I said that correctly before, but I'm going to repot them into a slightly larger pot. I'll do it real quick and I'll just chat a little bit while I do it. Thanks for joining me for episode 14 of Taco Bonsai. So I'm just going to move the camera over. I'm going to try to work within this space. I understand that last time I didn't do a very good job of keeping everything where it needs to be, so now I know from my hand here, if I go any higher than here, you guys can't see it. I'm going to try to respect that as best I can. But forgive me, because I'm so ridiculously hypo-intelligent. I don't always think so much. So this is just it's from a different succulent. I have a little screen I'm going to put in there. So I'm going to take my wire. I'm going to do what I did the last time. Straighten it out, bend it into thirds, right? So I've got a little almost paper clip there if the paper clip wasn't meant to be so good. And then look at my hole in the bottom. It doesn't have to be very, very big. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it right down to the middle, bend it down like that. Right here, same thing, bend it down virtually in the middle, and that will slide through. So on this one, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try attaching this on the bottom and tying it on the top. The reason why I want to try that, although this is a very thin, not thin, but you know, the material itself isn't very thick, but the reason why I try this is because I feel as if it's nice to trap a little bit of water in these little spaces on the inside, but without those being on the inside, again, just bending it over the way I would normally. Do that right? Yeah. It might be that water's able to drain better. Because succulents don't always like a lot of water in there, I think this might be the move. So we'll give it a shot. All right, so that's nice and sturdy. No jiggly, no nothing. We are good. There's a little bit of residual soil in here. I am going to clean this out as best I can. Actually, it might just be like superfines. Most of my pots float around for a while, so I like this one. It actually has a little hole to hang it on the wall if I wanted to. And I think it'll look pretty good in there, but I think I can expose more of this trunk. Again, this is the Crassula Ogre's ears from the Cactus collection, even though it's not a cactus. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Sorry, I was holding that up too high. All right, so it was watered yesterday, so it stayed pretty wet. I'm not trying to completely bare root this. What I am trying to do is I'm trying to see if I can get any more of these, not roots, but this trunk exposed to see what it looks like. See, that's actually quite a bit of trunk. And I'm not trying, again, to destroy anything. A lot of this isn't the best soil for it, but I'm not concerned with that. I'm really more concerned with just seeing what I got and getting into a larger container so it can grow pretty normally. So yeah, that's not bad. I don't know if it's got real roots or if it's a cutting. So I'm gonna be very gentle on this, especially considering it's in this kind of sphagnum material. But I think it probably has some real roots. These are real nice here. And it probably has been repotted before. So I am going to kind of disturb them a little bit. Because it's a succulent, it's not really a time of year sort of thing. But if I don't disturb these roots, it will not grow into the new soil around it. And because it's already started to circle there, it's probably good that I was doing this now. So I'm just kind of trying to rough up these edges, tear them up. See, this is a nice root here. Not too thick, but it does show that it's got real roots under here. So even if it was a cutting, which I'm sure most of them are, it's got enough of its own root system to survive this nicely. And I don't know how fast these ones grow. I know my Lilliput jade is growing like another segment. Not jade, sorry, I keep saying jade. My Lilliput piafra is growing like another segment. Doesn't mean I'll get it here, but I'm hoping it has some version of steady growth. Yeah. So far we're doing good. And so what I'm doing here is I'm kind of trying to figure out where the end of this is. There we go. I like this because it's round, and when I put it into little loops like that, I can kind of work back and forth, and eventually it loosens up. I find that it's easier to loosen things up using just the weight of this. So again, I slide it in and I just work it back and forth until it loosens up when it's tangled roots like that. I think it works really nice. Not having anything like rough works nice. I do love root rakes. I don't have a root rake I'm happy with right now. I've had a couple back scratchers I've been using. I've of course used other things like, you know, tweezers and all that. But right now, this is probably my easiest one. Again, I do have chopsticks, but I use my chopsticks quite often for eating and cooking, and they're steel. I'd rather have something that's a little bit closer to this size and shape. So see, these are real tangled, but just the weight of this is what pulled that out. It may have broke a little bit. No, it didn't. So that didn't break those roots. Those are all super fine. Almost too high. All super fine. So we're doing good here. Again, I was probably holding it too high, but this is the mundane part. I'm just trying to loosen up the soil. And honestly, this probably could get bare rooted. Not sure I should, but it probably could. So already, it's a much taller tree. I don't know if you can call it a tree. It's a much taller trunk on this than it was when I first bought it, just from an appearance standpoint. I think I am at a point, sorry, it's going too high, where I'm getting down to roots, because there's a little root here I can't figure out. Yeah. So that's a good root right there. Not perfect, but pretty good. This one, of course, I already knew about. It's a little high compared to the rest of them. It's not bad. I'll probably pot it that high anyways. Right now, I'm just trying to get it so that the roots have length to grow in. And with how long these are, not that it was time that needed to be done, but because I want to put this into a better container for more growth, and I want to uncover some of this trunk, I think I probably did this at a good time. Yeah, liking this. It's also pest-free, which I typically notice with succulents anyways, but yeah, it's looking really good. I do want to make sure, if I can, if there's any tangled roots there like this one, they're circling around, I go ahead and try to pull that back to straight out. I've got another one next to it too that's kind of doing the same thing. Even if I'm not pruning, making the roots as radial as possible is going to help me down the road. Small roots move easy. Big roots don't move as easy. You end up having to prune them off and start again. And eventually, sometimes you do that just because the roots have gotten too thick and they're out of proportion. That's a good reason. Oop, just tap the camera. But I don't think these are too thick and out of proportion. I think they're just kind of tangly. So let's see how much more I can do on this before I start worrying about it drying out. And I know I made it way more difficult for myself by doing it with somewhat wet soil. But these roots aren't terribly tangled or anything. I think you can hear there's a little tears every once in a while, but I'm keeping a lot of these roots on here, which I'm very happy about. So flip it over, kind of get some of the bottom here. And you can see very well what I'm doing, I'm hoping. Yeah, you probably can. So the soil that's on here, although it's wet, which is good, it's probably not the best soil for getting this thing to grow and keeping it well drained. It looks like this soil holds too much moisture for the type of plant this is. So, yeah, look at all that. Those are actually really good roots. Probably could put it into a shallower container. Oh, there's the bottom of the trunk. See, I can get to the bottom of the trunk, which is also really cool. Can't always do that. Oop, holding it too high, wasn't I? So I can see the bottom of the trunk. That's the bottom of the trunk right there. So these roots are all very much on a plane. I'm reconsidering my decision for this pot because these don't really need, so right there, yeah, there we go. These don't really need a deep pot. There's no straight down roots. Everything's very much just moving. So if I was to hold it upside down, this is the bottom of it. I could really plant this shallow. So I think I'm going to replace this pot the different one. Let me see if I can take that out of there. Prop this up. See, that sits very, very flat, which I'm very, very happy about. In fact, it's in good shape. All right, be right back. This one's not the right pot. I'm going to see if I can use this screen anyhow, though. Yep, all right, be right back. So, slightly disappointing for me. This is the only pot I have. It's a plaster pot, so it may not be good, but it's not been used yet. I'm gonna give it a shot. I am going to have to redo this because this is a thicker material. So, put this here. Let's see. Yeah, teeny tiny bit of trimming, but I think that'll be good. I do wish this was a little shallower, but again, beggars, choosers, and all that stuff, right? So, or, you know what, before I do that, let's try another one. So I also have this pot, which is kind of wood grain. It's very, very shallow. And this pot, which again, it's a soap dish. Very shallow, but it's kind of a nice pattern to it. I'm not sure if I like that better. I could plant it, I don't know. That's awfully tempting. You know what? I think I like it better here, and the reason why, especially when I've got it a little closer, if you look at the tips of all the leaves, or ears, they have a little bit of pink to them, and honestly there is a little bit of pink that's being picked up by this, like the pinkish peach color that's being picked up by this pot. So I do like this. It's not so similar that it blends in, and hopefully I can get some moss established or something of that sort to kind of help it more, but I think this actually works nice. So I'm going to comb this back out as much as I can. So I just tangled it all up again, fiddling around with it. Yeah. Too high, sorry, too high. All right. Yeah, I think that's where I need to be. I'm gonna go ahead and empty out my bin here so I'm not putting perfectly good bonsai soil on top of all this, cocoa noir and the like. All right, so I've got this ready to go. Make sure I got that where it needs to be, right there. Got this ready to go. Got to redo my tie. So all I'm gonna do is pop it out of the screen, which should be way easier than it is, of course. It's coming out. Ooh. This is just me struggling with it, nothing to see, so sorry my hands are in the way. All right, so instead of doing it that way, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it to kind of more of a weird shape. Yeah. I'm just gonna straighten it out again. I used going through all this just to try to get it straight at the ends. I should just straighten it out the right way. Yeah. All right. Close enough. All right. So instead of doing it into thirds, I'm gonna do it more like 2/3 this way, and then 2/3 this way. So much smaller S there, but that's because the height of this pot is so much, or the height of the bottom of this is so much more. I'm gonna bend it close to the center, close to the center like I did before, and then close to the center like I did before. So now I've got a much smaller one, but it doesn't go through the hole. That's what matters. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tie it in from the bottom, like I said I wanted to do with the other one. Straighten this out a little bit better. Again, I want to see if I can help a little bit with that moisture. And retaining moisture is unnecessary. So, let's see here. This wire is slightly larger than the holes it has to go through. But since this is like window screen door material, it should go through. Yeah, there we go. Just need a little bit of persuading. So now I've got that ready to go. I'm gonna push it in from the bottom. We'll try that out. And on the inside, yeah, it reached. So we'll bend these over. Really make sure they're good. No movement. All right. I'm gonna take a little bit of couldn't tell you what I did with my little scoop. But I'm going to have to do this way. So I'm going to use my shell scoop that I've been using. And honestly, that turned out pretty good. I got a pretty good level in there. I don't know if you can see. Pretty good level. I'm going to work to mound it up a little bit. And then I'm going to just do a quick trim on these roots to make sure there's nothing too long. There's really not much that needs to be cut out, so all I had to do was just that little bit. Yeah. So again, still pretty good guy here. I'm gonna plant it off center. And I know I should be bare rooting this since I've gone this far already, but to avoid damaging any of these very delicate roots, because these do, in my experience, have extremely delicate roots, and they do not have an issue of being a little bit moist next to their roots. I'm gonna go ahead and just dump this in here. So I'm gonna pop it in, give it a little twist. I think I want it offset like that. I'm just gonna make sure my angle is kind of where it needs to be. So I can lean it back like that, yeah. Nice. So before I trim off these roots, I'm going to put some more soil on here. And what I'll do is something I don't think I've ever seen anyone do. I'm gonna go ahead, get these on here, kind of get it somewhat laid in. Ooh, too much all at once. That's why we use the tray. All right. So before I do too much, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and cut. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll just use these scissors. I'm going to cut on the inside. Just to make sure. Oh, that's a rock. Just to make sure I'm getting the absolute. Whoop, not what I want to do. That's why I didn't tamp it down yet. But yeah, make sure I'm getting the maximum out of these roots. I don't mind if they're all the way to the edge and they start to come down a little bit with where they're at. But I know that I need to have these in the soil. So when I start doing my, chopsticking to get these in there, it'll push them in and it'll push them closer to the, where's my front? Oh, the front was this way, okay. It'll get them closer to the center of the pot anyway, so that should be okay. So, oof, it just wants to fall over on me. All right, so we're looking like that. That's gonna be the front like that. I think it works. I think the color's nice. So I'm going to start this again. This soil is nice and dry, and it just kind of wants to fall in there. And because these roots don't have a whole lot of, craziness to them, I think I should be able to do this without doing too much side to side. I don't know if lateral is the right word for it. But too much side to side. I can just go straight down a little bit at an angle near the base of the plant, but not too much. Already it feels much more stable. I'm being very ginger while I hold this, and the reason why is is because I'm worried about harming these leaves in the trunk. I don't know how delicate these are. I know with some of my jades, when they're not like perfectly healthy, sometimes they can just pop off, which is great for propagating, but when you want it to look a certain way, especially when you're happy with the way it looks, you don't want to be pulling off anything you don't want to. I think intention is a huge part of bonsai, and I try to be intentional. So hopefully it's working out with this longer, stick. Turn it around, slap myself in the face. Turn it around because I got a root here that wants to kind of work its way over. I don't want that. I want it to stay very radial, especially after I did all this work to make it more radial. So give it just a moment. I'm gonna grab some more. And I'm new to the world of succulents, especially jade and Crassula and Piafra. I think the jade is Crassula. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like Crassula ovata or something like that. Yeah, I'm relatively new to it. I've seen them everywhere. People love them. I know they're, they can get nice woody stalks and they can have a great tree form, even though they're not a tree. Although no one ever questions whether or not they're a bonsai. I guess it's one of those exceptions. People will tell you all day long that plants with big leaves can't be bonsai, but something like this, they say, no, that's a bonsai, we accept it. I think that's funny. I'm already taking a long time on this, aren't I? I don't mind taking a long time, taking my time repotting things. I don't mind narrating it. To be honest, I would be narrating a lot of what I do anyways. Sometimes I even read books to my dog and cat. I don't know if it's good for them, but I think it's good for me to practice reading things out loud every once in a while. But I can promise you I've gotten worse as time's gone on as far as reading aloud versus better, which I don't have an explanation for. But I digress. This will live inside. Unless I really know it's going to be a nice warm night. I don't think I want to put it outside anyways. But I think I've got it pretty much done. I may have even filled it more than I should have. But again, I didn't want to completely expose the trunk. I just want to expose more of it. So this is what I wanted to do. I don't want any roots sticking out. I want them all buried. I wanted a nice, well-draining mix. I would have loved to have it in a little more shallow of a container. But you know what? I think this will do just fine. I don't know that's the best, but if I'm taking it from this container, which is much shallower than it appears, it only really goes down about here. I think I can still keep my roots nice and radial and be very satisfied with it. So that is the repot on the Crassula Ogre's Ear. It's not really easy to see, but yeah, I think it's a nice pretty plant. Not the best pot. It's got a little bit of texture and color to it. Almost looks concrete. It's plaster with paint, I'm very certain. Yeah, but that's about it. I am going to be, maybe not wise, but I'm going to be conservative. I'm going to spray this versus going ahead and soaking it. I'm also going to spray the pot to see how it absorbs water. And it looks like it just beads off. That's something important to me. So I'm going to give it some nice sprays from right, from left, and from the back. And I'll put this under the light and the heat and just make sure it does okay. Because I did a little teeny tiny bit of root work here, I'm not going to give it any fertilizer, but as soon as I'm able to, maybe in a week or two, I'm going to drop some fertilizer on top here because I think that these do really like to be fertilized. Thank you for joining me for my first intentional repot after my mistake the other day, yesterday. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If I need to learn something, I hope I will. So if I did something wrong, just go ahead and let me know. But yeah, thanks for joining me again. comment, like, subscribe, all those good things. I'm trying out yet another different camera angle. I think for the majority of this, I was to the left of the camera, right here, looking at it that way. Now I'm behind the camera, right here, and I'm kind of talking past it. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad for the sound. So, and I know I'm doing my best to talk with my hands as much as I can. I might as well just be here, you know, gabbing. So let me know what you think of sound and camera angle. I'm of course going to listen to this and see what I think. But yeah, thank you for joining me on Taco Bonsai. I'm Taco. Have a great day.